Generously accepted, and it was very courageous of them. So I hope that you will join me in welcoming our first storyteller, whose name is Steven Miller. I won't give any more of an introduction because I think the stories will speak for themselves.
Okay, here we go. Heads down, eyes to the ground, please. Whatever you do, don't look up. Keep your eyes down. And at the very same time, I'm saying this to Victoria and John. Very, very sweet couple, very much in love. And so I tell them, okay, what we're going to do, we're going to get out of the car. Keep your eyes down, by the way. We're going to get out of the car. What I want you to do, close the doors, lock the car, and we're going to start walking towards the beach. But whatever you do, don't look up. The reason for that is that right above our car is a very obnoxious, unshielded street light. So that definitely don't look up at that. So we start walking onto the beach. And you notice, as you're looking down towards your footsteps, that the beach is getting darker and darker as you walk farther and farther away from that one street light. And John tells me, hey Steve, is it okay if we kind of walk a little bit closer to the water? Because it's kind of hard to walk on this beach with these nice shoes on. Yeah, sure, no problem, let's do that. So we walk into the wetter part of the beach, a little harder, easier to walk on. And we get to a point where you can't even see the light on the beach anymore. And that street light is so far away. So I say, okay, this is it, we're good. This is perfect, let's stop here. And Victoria says, wait a minute, what is that? Okay, you can look up now. So my name is Steven. I'm a wedding photographer in Orlando. That's my trade. And one way that we raise awareness for light pollution is by offering a unique night sky portrait session for our couples. And what that involves is actually taking the couple to a dark sky location and photographing them organically under a night sky. Now what's hard about that is that we're in the state of Florida. So the easiest night sky location is an easy 2-hour drive in either direction from Orlando to a place called Kissimmee Prairie Preserve State Park. If you've been there before, it's such a beautiful park. So Victoria and John said at their meeting when they booked, they said, we want to do a night sky session, and we've seen your photos from that park, but is there anywhere that's darker than that? And at that point I knew they were my kind of couple. I was like, yes, there is. So the next best option was in the Panhandle, which instead of a Bortle class, just relatively a Bortle class 5 in Kissimmee Prairie, if you go up to the Panhandle at a very certain spot in the armpit of Florida, you can get as low as 3. You can just tickle a 3. So, so they said, yep, that sounds good. And we embarked on a 5.5-hour road trip each way together with their buddy Steven in the back seat of the car, so which definitely drives home the importance of picking a photographer that you get along with for your wedding. So we got along just fine. It was a long trip, but we did it. And so we did a regular daytime engagement session shoot all around that area. Went to Panama City Beach, daytime session in the water, played around for a little bit, went to downtown historic Apalachicola for a little bit of a old school brickwork backdrop for their daytime and sunset engagement photos. And then it was time for the night sky portrait session. So we went to a little place called Indian Pass Campground up there. And as soon as we parked, I said, okay, turn the headlights off, get out of the car, don't look up. Keep your eyes down at all times. And you guys know this. Big reason for that is that you need to let your eyes adjust. Their eyes have been adjusted for high beams and their dashboard lit up and the lights that come on when you open the car door. So had them close their eyes, trust my guidance, follow me. I'm not going to let you trip and fall in the water. So we walked probably about 200 to 300 feet out into the beach to get as far away from that street light, just one street light. And if we weren't that far, it would have ruined my shot. Would have been too bright for a long exposure. So at one point, when I told them to stop, Victoria said, "Wait a minute, what is that?" And she pointed out into the water. And for the very first time, she saw bioluminescence, which, if you haven't seen it, it's this beautiful green, I could be saying this wrong, but it's like a bacteria. It's an organism that lives in the water. And she says, "Well, I thought that was only on the East Coast," because you can take kayak tours over near Cape Canaveral at night, and you put your oar in the water, and you just swash it like this, and you watch all this green light come into action around where the water that you're moving. It's beautiful. And I said, "Yeah, believe it or not, it's here in the Gulf Coast as well, but you have to be somewhere dark enough to see it." And she said, "Oh, that's amazing." She loved it. And I said, "Okay, are you guys ready? I'm going to count down, and when I get to 1, you guys can look up." So I said, 3, 2, 1, and they looked up. And the first thing John did is he started laughing. He's like, "Oh my gosh." Victoria broke down and cried. And I can only see the silhouettes, but I could see John basically wrap his arms around her and just have a moment with her for, honestly, about 2 to 3 minutes. She cried for about 2 to 3 minutes straight. But just to me, I just said to myself, this is exactly why I do this. To take a couple who's lived in Orlando for most of their life, neither of them have ever seen the Milky Way or a great night sky, ever, and to take them to a new place and a new time that they've never been to before means a lot to me, which is why I do what I do, and I'm sure that's why you guys do all that you do. So that's my story, and I will say, after crying, the first thing I said to her was, "You probably ought to check on your makeup, but I don't know how you're going to do it." So I hoped that the photos would come out fine, and they did, So that's my story. Thank you very much.